I was 17 years old when I shoved a baseball bat into my brother until he stopped breathing. I still remember the sound, the screams that turned into moans and then turned into nothing. I still remember the blood on my hands, warm and sticky, while my sister cried in the corner of the room. People call me a monster. They say I'm a psychopath, a cold-blooded killer, but nobody knows what I saw. Nobody knows what he did to her. And before you judge me, before you close this video and call me whatever you want, listen to my complete story, because I guarantee you've never heard anything like this. My name is Brandon. I'm 23 years old now, and I got out of juvenile detention 8 months ago. I spent almost 5 years in there, 5 years paying for what I did that December night. 5 years sleeping with the sound of my own nightmares, seeing my brother's face every time I closed my eyes. When the police arrived that night, I was sitting on the floor next to his body. I didn't try to run, didn't make up an excuse. I just said he deserved it and everyone thought I was crazy. My mom passed out when she saw the scene. My dad looked at me like I was a stranger. The neighbors whispered that they always knew there was something wrong with me. But nobody asked why. Nobody wanted to know what happened before that moment. Nobody cared to find out what led a 17-year-old boy who had never hurt anyone in his life to do something so brutal. Because it was easier to turn me into the villain than to see the truth. It was easier to believe I was a monster than to accept that the real monster was dead on the floor with a baseball bat embedded in him. I know you must be thinking that nothing justifies what I did, that there were other ways to solve this, that I should have called the police, told someone, asked for help, and maybe you're right. Maybe I've been wrong from the beginning, but when you finish hearing this story, when you know exactly what happened in that house, maybe you'll understand that sometimes justice doesn't arrive in time. Sometimes, when you're just a kid and the person who should protect your family is the one destroying it, you make decisions that change your life forever. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not looking for absolution. I've already paid my price, already looked into the eyes of judges, psychologists, social workers, all trying to understand what goes on in my head. I've heard all the analyses, all the diagnoses, but none of them were there. None of them saw what I saw. So before you judge me, listen to me. If you're really paying attention to me, if you really want to understand what happened, I need you to do something now. Like this video, subscribe to Traumatic Accounts, turn on the notification bell, and comment where you're watching me from, because I need to know there's someone on the other side really listening, really trying to understand. This isn't just another video for you to pass the time. It's my life. It's the story that turned me into what I am today. And I promise that what you're going to hear from now on will completely change the way you see all of this. Because there was someone else in that house. There was a 14-year-old girl locked in her room with torn clothes and empty eyes. My sister, my younger sister, and the man who did that to her was dead. Because I, her middle brother, decided he didn't deserve to breathe the same air as us anymore. So stay with me. Because this story isn't about a murder, it's about a family destroyed from the inside out. It's about silences that kill more than screams. It's about the moment you discover that the monster lives inside your own home. We were a normal family. At least that's what everyone thought. My dad, Robert, worked at an auto repair shop. My mom, Carol, was an elementary school teacher. We were 3 siblings. Leonardo, the oldest, was 21 years old when he died. I was 17 and Isabel, the youngest, was 14. We grew up in a small house in Queens, New York. We didn't have much, but we had enough. Weekends at Grandma's house, barbecues in the backyard, an old video game console the 3 of us shared. Family stuff, lower middle class, you know. Nothing luxurious, but there was love. Or at least I thought there was. Leonardo was always the favorite, the firstborn, the smartest one, the one who was going to go to college and make the family proud. My dad always said Leo was going to be an engineer, that he was going to get us out of that life. My mom doted on him. Everything Leo did was perfect. Got an A on a test, my mom would call her friends to tell them. Won a trophy in soccer, my dad would put it on the living room shelf like it was a World Cup. I was the middle child, the forgotten one. I wasn't dumb, but I wasn't a genius like Leo either. I wasn't an athlete, wasn't popular, I was invisible. And that was fine, I got used to it. I had my friends, my video games, my comic books. I didn't need the spotlight. But Isabel was my responsibility. Since she was little, she was attached to me. When my mom and dad worked, I stayed taking care of her. I helped with homework, took her to the park, defended her from the neighborhood kids who made fun of her because she was skinny. She was my best friend, you know? The only person in that house who really saw me. Leonardo was always more distant. When we were little, he played with us, but as he grew up, he pulled away. He spent more time in his room, more time out. He said he was studying, that he was with his college friends, and my parents believed everything because it was Leo. Perfect Leo. I was about 15 when I started noticing something was wrong. Isabel changed. Suddenly, the happy girl who jumped on the couch and laughed at anything went quiet, silent. She stopped leaving her room, stopped eating properly. My mom thought it was a teenager thing, a phase, hormones. My dad didn't even notice. He worked all day and came home exhausted. But I noticed. I noticed how she flinched when Leonardo walked past her. I noticed how she avoided being alone at home with him. I noticed the red eyes from crying so much, the long sleeves even in 95-degree heat. I noticed, but I didn't understand. Not back then. I tried to talk to her. I asked if everything was okay, if someone was messing with her at school, if she needed help. She just shook her head and said everything was fine, but I knew it wasn't. I felt it in my gut that something was very wrong. When I was 16, I woke up in the middle of the night thirsty. I went to the kitchen and heard a noise coming from Isabel's room. A muffled cry. I went to the door and listened. She was crying, but it wasn't normal crying. It was suffocated, desperate crying. I knocked on the door. She screamed for me to go away. I insisted. She opened the door just a crack. Her face swollen, eyes red. Isa, what's wrong? Tell me. Nothing, Brandon. Go back to sleep. It's nothing. You're crying every day. Let me help you. She looked at me with a pain I had never seen before, an adult's pain in the eyes of a 13-year-old girl, and said, "You can't help me. Nobody can." And she closed the door in my face. I tried talking to my mom. I said Isabel wasn't well, that she needed attention. My mom said it was teenage whining, that I didn't need to interfere. I tried talking to my dad. He told me to stop making up problems, that Isabel was fine, that it was just a phase. Nobody listened to me. And meanwhile, Leonardo continued being the perfect son, passing his exams, praised by teachers, admired by neighbors. And I kept watching my sister waste away day after day, unable to do anything. That's when Isabel started having nightmares. I would wake up to her screams in the middle of the night, run to her room, and she'd be sweating, trembling, screaming. I held her in my arms until she calmed down. She'd grab my shirt and cry. She cried nonstop, but never told me what was happening. Until one night, about 2 months before everything happened, she almost told me. We were watching TV late at night, just the two of us. There was a scene in a movie where a guy tried to abuse a girl. Isabel started shaking. I quickly turned off the TV. I hugged her. Isa, tell me what's happening, please. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, and when she was about to speak, Leonardo came into the living room. She froze, went stiff in my embrace. Leo grabbed water from the fridge and went back to his room without even looking at us. When he left, Isabel got up and went to her room. She didn't say anything else. That night I kept thinking about how she changed, thinking about when she changed, and all the pieces started to fit together. The behavior change started 2 years ago. Right after Leonardo started college and began spending more time at home studying, right after my parents started working even later and leaving the three of us alone. And I started to suspect, but I refused to believe because it was impossible. It was my brother. It was Leo. He wouldn't do something like that. Not to his own sister. It couldn't be. Until the truth exploded in my face in the worst possible way. It was a Friday in December. School vacation had just started. My dad was working overtime at the shop. My mom had taken my grandma to the doctor and was going to be a while. It was just the three of us at home. Me, Leonardo, and Isabel. I was in my room playing video games with headphones on. I didn't even notice the time passing, until I took off the headphones to get water and heard it. A muffled scream, but it was a scream. It was coming from Isabel's room. My heart raced. I ran out of my room. Isabel's door was closed. I tried to open it, locked. I knocked on the door. Isa, are you okay? Silence. I knocked harder. Isabel. Then I heard his voice. Leonardo, inside my sister's room. Everything's fine. She just tripped. Calm down, Brandon. Something inside me locked up. Something wrong. Very wrong. I started kicking the door, hard, with all the strength I had. The lock was old. On the third kick, the door opened and what I saw destroyed my life. Isabel was on the bed, without her shirt, pants pulled down, face covered in tears. Leonardo was on top of her, shirtless, holding her wrists against the mattress. When the door opened, he jumped to the side, tried to cover himself. It's not what you think, but it was exactly what I was thinking. I looked at Isabel. She was in shock, trembling, eyes wide. I looked at Leonardo, saw the panic on his face, the sweat, the guilt. What the hell is this, Leonardo? He came toward me, tried to calm me down. Brandon, man, let me explain. So explain. Explain what you were doing with her. Isabel started crying. Desperate, broken crying. I pushed Leonardo and went to her. I grabbed a blanket and put it around her. She grabbed the blanket and curled up, sobbing. Leonardo was standing in the middle of the room, running his hand through his hair, desperate. It was nothing, man. We were just talking. Talking? She's without clothes, you son of a bitch. I had never yelled at my brother like that. I had never felt so much rage toward anyone in my life. It was a rage that burned, that suffocated. I grabbed him by the arm and dragged him out of the room. I closed Isabel's door, pushed him against the hallway wall. How long? My voice came out hoarse, almost a whisper. Brandon, you don't understand. How long have you been doing this to her? He didn't answer, just looked away, and I knew. It wasn't the first time, wasn't the second time. This had been happening for a long time. All of Isabel's changes, the crying, the nightmares, the fear, everything made sense now. You're a monster. Leonardo tried to justify himself. He said Isabel wanted it, that she provoked him, that it wasn't just his fault. Every word that came out of his mouth disgusted me more. She's 14 years old, you piece of shit. 14, she's a child. She's not a child. I didn't let him finish. I punched him in the face. It was the first time I hit someone in my life. He staggered, held his bleeding nose, looked at me with hatred. You're going to regret this. I'm going to regret it? You abused our sister and I'm going to regret it? He wiped the blood from his nose and went to his room, slammed the door. I stood in the hallway, shaking, trying to process what I had just seen. I went back to Isabel's room. She was still curled up on the bed, clutching the blanket. I sat on the edge of the bed. Isa, she didn't look at me. Isa, look at me. She slowly turned her face. She was destroyed. I could see it on her face. How long has he been doing this to you? She started crying again. It doesn't matter. It does matter. We need to tell our parents, the police. He needs to pay for what he's doing. She shook her head frantically. No, Brandon, no. Why? You have to. Because nobody's going to believe me. Her scream silenced me. She was right. Knowing my parents, knowing how they idolized Leonardo, they would never believe it. They would think it was a lie. They would think it was made up in her head. They would protect the perfect son. I believe you, Isa. She looked at me with eyes full of pain. It doesn't matter. Nothing's going to change. Yes, it will. I'm going to do something. I promise. She grabbed my hand. Please, Brandon, don't do anything. Please, I just want to forget. But how was she going to forget? How does anyone forget something like this? I stayed with her until she fell asleep. I left the room and went to mine. I sat on the bed, my head spinning. I needed to think. I needed to do something. But what? Could I tell my mom? She would never believe it. Could I tell my dad? He would call me crazy. Could I go to the police? His word against hers. An exemplary college student against a troubled teenager. Who would they believe? I spent the whole night awake thinking. And the more I thought, the angrier I felt. Anger at Leonardo. Anger at my parents who never paid attention. Anger at myself for not noticing sooner. The next day, I tried talking to Isabel again. I asked for details. When did it start? How did it start? She told me between tears and pauses that it had started 2 years ago. Leonardo would go to her room in the middle of the night. He would say that if she told anyone, nobody would believe her. He said it was her fault that she provoked him, and she believed it. For 2 years, she believed it was her fault. 2 years. My sister was abused by our brother for 2 years, and nobody noticed. Nobody, except me, when it was already too late. She begged me not to tell anyone. She said it would make everything worse, that our parents would turn against her, that her life would be over. And I, like an idiot, promised I wouldn't tell. I promised I would protect her my own way. But what was my way? The days went by and I couldn't look at Leonardo without wanting to rip his head off. He acted like nothing had happened. He smiled at my mom. He talked to my dad about football. He was the same perfect son as always. But when he crossed paths with me, I saw the challenge in his eyes, as if he was saying, "So what? What are you going to do?" Isabel stopped leaving her room, stopped eating. My mom got worried, took her to the doctor. The doctor said it was depression, prescribed medication, but nobody asked why. Nobody investigated deeply. It was easier to stuff her with medication than to look for the root of the problem. I tried to be strong, tried to be there for her, but I watched my sister waste away day after day and couldn't do anything. Until one night, about 3 days before everything happened, I heard noise in her room again. It was 3 a.m. I ran out of my room. The door was ajar. I looked through the crack. Leonardo was there again, on top of her again. His hand over her mouth so she wouldn't scream, and something inside me broke. Broke once and for all. It wasn't anger anymore. It was hatred, pure hatred. Hatred that corroded, that burned from the inside. I pushed the door hard. Leonardo got startled, got off her. Isabel was paralyzed, eyes glazed. "Get out of here before I kill you!" Leonardo laughed. He laughed in my face. "Or what, Brandon? What are you gonna do? Tell Mommy and Daddy? Go ahead. Let's see who they'll believe." He was right, and he knew it. He left the room walking slowly, as if challenging me. He stopped at the door, turned around. "She likes it, Brandon. It might not seem like it, but she likes it. If I had a gun at that moment, I would have killed him right there, but I didn't. So I just stood there, shaking with hatred, watching him go back to his room like nothing had happened. I went to Isabel. She was in shock. I picked her up and took her to my room. I put her in my bed, locked the door, sat on the floor next to her, holding her hand. "I'm going to fix this, Isa. I promise." She didn't say anything, just squeezed my hand. And that night, while my sister slept in my bed, I made a decision. If justice wasn't going to do anything, I would. If my parents weren't going to protect her, I would. If the whole world was going to turn its back on her, I wouldn't. Leonardo was going to pay for what he did, and I was going to make sure of it. In the next 3 days, I couldn't think about anything else. It was like my head was stuck in a loop. I woke up thinking about it, went to sleep thinking about it. When I looked at Leonardo, I saw a monster. And when I looked at Isabel, I saw a destroyed girl that nobody besides me cared to save. I thought about all the options. Go to the police, tell my parents again, convince Isabel to report it. But every time I thought about it, I remembered his words. Let's see who they'll believe. And I knew. I knew that even if Isabel had the courage to report it, it would be her against him. It would be the word of a troubled teenager with depression against an exemplary college student, perfect son, pride of the family. They would make her feel guilty. They would say she made it up. They would destroy her even more. And even if they filed a complaint, even if they opened a case, how long would it take? Months, years. And in that time, Leonardo would continue free, would continue living under the same roof as her, would continue threatening her, manipulating her, destroying her. No, there wouldn't be time. Isabel was already almost lifeless. I could see it in her eyes. She was giving up. She stopped eating more and more. She took the medications like they were candy. She spent hours staring at the ceiling, not saying anything. And I knew that if I didn't do something soon, I would lose her. Maybe not physically, but I would lose the girl she was. I would lose my sister for real. So I made the decision. It wasn't something I thought about much. I didn't make any elaborate plan. It was more of an instinct, a click in my head that said, it has to be now. It was a Thursday. My parents had gone out to dinner, rare thing, but it was their wedding anniversary. They would only come back late. It was just the three of us, me, Leonardo, and Isabel. Isabel was in her room. Leonardo was in the living room watching TV. I went to my parents' room. I opened the closet. In the back, I knew my dad kept an old baseball bat. It was his from when he was young. He never used it, but kept it there as a memory. I grabbed the bat, weighed it in my hand. It was heavy, solid wood. I felt the weight and knew it was enough. I went back to the living room. Leonardo was on the couch, on his phone. He didn't even look when I came in. I stood behind him, holding the bat. My heart was beating so hard, I thought he would hear it. My hands were sweating. My breathing was accelerated. And for a second, I thought about giving up. I thought, what am I doing? This is crazy. Until he spoke without taking his eyes off his phone. What's up, man? You going to stand there staring at me? And then I remembered. I remembered Isabel's face that first time I saw. I remembered her crying. I remembered her shrinking every time he walked by. I remembered 2 years of abuse, 2 years of silence, 2 years of nobody doing anything. And I hit. I didn't think. I just hit. The bat hit the back of his head, made a dry sound. He screamed, fell off the couch. The phone flew away. He turned to me, hand on his head, blood dripping between his fingers. You're crazy, what did you do? I hit again, this time on the shoulder. He screamed louder, tried to defend himself, but I was faster. I hit again. I don't know how many times I hit. I lost count. I only remember the rage that took over me and wouldn't let me stop. Every time the bat hit him, I remembered one more thing. Isabel's face, her crying, the nights she begged me not to leave her alone. Leonardo tried to fight back, tried to grab the bat, but he was too weak. I managed to throw him on the floor. He dragged himself, tried to go to the door, but I grabbed him by the ankle and pulled him back. Please, Brandon, stop, for God's sake. But I didn't stop. I turned him on his back, looked into his eyes. He was scared. He was begging. He was pathetic. Did you beg her to stop? Did she ask you for God's sake? He cried. He cried like Isabel cried so many times. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. You didn't mean to? You didn't mean to? Which time, Leo? The first one? The 10th? When you made her think it was her fault? He tried to say something else, but it didn't matter. Nothing he said was going to change what he did. Nothing was going to bring Isabel back. And then I did it. I won't describe exactly how, but I used the bat in the way you imagine, in the most brutal way possible, because I wanted him to feel it. I wanted him to feel a fraction of the pain he caused her. His screams echoed through the house. They were screams of agony, screams that gave me pleasure, and that scared me. It scared me to realize I was enjoying it, enjoying seeing him suffer, but I didn't stop. I continued until the screams turned into moans, until the moans turned into silence, until his body stopped moving. When I finally stopped, I was covered in blood. My hands, my face, my clothes, everything. The bat slipped in my hand from so much blood. I looked at his body on the floor, eyes open, fixed, mouth half open, blood spreading across the living room floor, and I felt nothing, no regret, no guilt, just emptiness. That's when I heard the scream behind me. Isabel was at her bedroom door looking at the scene, hands over her mouth, eyes wide. Brandon, what did you do? I dropped the bat. It fell to the floor with a dull sound. I fixed it, Isa. He won't hurt you anymore. She started crying. It wasn't a cry of relief. It was a cry of terror, of shock. You killed him. You killed our brother. I walked toward her. She backed away. Isa, I did this for you. He deserved it. Get away. Get out of here. She went into her room and slammed the door. I heard her crying on the other side. I stood in the hallway, covered in blood, listening to my sister cry. The same sister I had just avenged. The same sister I thought would be grateful, but she wasn't grateful. She was terrified of me. I went back to the living room, looked at Leonardo's body, at the blood, at the bat on the floor, and it finally hit me what I had done. I had killed my brother. It didn't matter the reason, didn't matter what he had done. I had taken someone's life. I sat on the floor, leaning against the wall. My hands were shaking. I looked at them covered in blood. My brother's blood. Blood that would never come out completely, even after washing 1,000 times. I don't know how long I sat there. I could have run, could have cleaned everything, made up a story, but I did nothing. I just stayed there waiting. When my parents arrived, it was almost midnight. I heard the key in the door. I heard my mom laughing at something my dad had said. I heard their footsteps coming in, and then I heard the scream. My mom saw the scene before my dad. Her scream was so high-pitched it almost pierced my eardrums. She fell to her knees next to Leonardo's body, trying to wake him up, screaming his name. My dad was paralyzed at the door, looked at his dead son, looked at me, covered in blood, and understood. "What did you do?" His voice came out low, trembling. He was abusing Isabel for 2 years. I caught him doing it again today. My mom stopped screaming, looked at me with pure hatred. "Liar, you're a monster, a murderer. You can ask her. Go to her room and ask." My dad went to Isabel's room, knocked on the door. She opened it, saw the scene through the half-open door, started crying again. My dad went in and closed the door. I heard his muffled voice asking. I heard her sobbing answers. When my dad came out of the room, he was pale. He looked at me in a way I'll never forget. It wasn't hatred, it was disappointment, sadness, as if he had lost both sons at once. "Couldn't you have called the police, told us?" I laughed. It was a bitter laugh without humor. "Tell you? I tried. Nobody believed me. You were so busy idolizing the perfect son that you didn't see what he was doing to her every night." My mom screamed again, called me everything. She said I was the devil, that I was going to burn in hell. My dad just called the police. When the squad car arrived, I didn't resist. I let them handcuff me. I let them take me. Isabel was at the bedroom window, watching. Our eyes met for a second. I saw fear in them, but I also saw something else, something that might have been gratitude, or maybe I was just imagining it. On the way to the station, the officer asked why I had done that. I said he was abusing my sister. He shook his head. "You have to let justice take care of these things, kid." What was justice going to do? Give him a light sentence? Let him out in 2 years and come back to finish destroying my sister? No, I did what justice wasn't going to do. He didn't say anything else. At the station, I told everything from the beginning, from when I started suspecting until the moment I grabbed the bat. They recorded everything. One detective looked at me with pity, another with disgust. They sent me to a temporary detention center while they investigated. I spent weeks there waiting. Psychologists interviewed me. They wanted to know if I was a psychopath, if I had premeditated it, if I regretted it. That last question I always answered with the truth. No, I didn't regret killing him. I regretted not doing it sooner. I regretted letting the abuse continue for so long. But killing him, I would do it again, if I could go back in time. That didn't help my case. At the trial, my lawyer tried to argue defense of others. He tried to show Isabel's history of abuse. She had to testify. I saw my sister in court, small and fragile, telling a room full of strangers what Leonardo did to her for 2 years. I saw my mom crying, but I don't know if she was crying for dead Leonardo or destroyed Isabel. I think for both. My dad didn't show up to any of the hearings. In the end, I was convicted, aggravated homicide. Because I was a minor, I went to a juvenile detention center. The sentence? 5 years with possibility of early release for good behavior. When the judge hit the gavel, I looked at Isabel. She was crying. I nodded, as if saying, it was worth it. She just looked away. The 5 years I spent in juvenile detention were the worst and the best of my life. Worst, because I was locked up, far from everything and everyone, because I slept on a hard bunk bed, ate bad food, was watched 24 hours, because I had to live with other boys who had done horrible things, some worse than me. But they were the best because, for the first time in a long time, I could sleep knowing my sister was safe, that the monster wasn't there anymore, that she had a chance to recover. At first, it was hard. The other inmates looked at me differently when they found out what I had done. Killed my own brother. Some respected me for it. They said I had courage. Others avoided me. They thought I was crazy, dangerous. I just wanted to keep to myself. I had psychological counseling. The psychologist tried to make me admit I was wrong, that there were other ways out, that violence doesn't solve anything. But I never lied to her. I always told the truth. I would do it all again. She wrote that down in a little notebook and shook her head, worried. Isabel visited me once, just once. It was 6 months after I went in. She was different, older, hair cut short, a small tattoo on her wrist. We sat in a visiting room, a table between us. We were silent for a while until she spoke. I don't know if I hate you or if I love you. I understand. You killed our brother, Brandon. I killed your torturer. She swallowed hard, wiped away a tear. I know. And part of me is relieved because he's not there anymore, because I can breathe again. But part of me is destroyed because even with everything he did, he was still my brother. And you took that from me. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. You said you don't regret it. I don't regret protecting you, but I regret it if it hurt you more. She was quiet again, played with her sleeve. I started therapy. I'm taking the right medication. I went back to school. I'm trying. I'm happy for you. Mom doesn't say your name. Dad moved away. I'm living with Grandma. My heart tightened. I knew I had destroyed my family, but I had no choice. Either destroy the family or let Leonardo destroy Isabel. I chose to save her. Are you okay? She gave a humorless laugh. No, but I'm better than I was. She got up to leave, stopped at the door. Thank you, Brandon, and I'm sorry I can't forgive you yet. That was the last time I saw her during the 5 years. My mom never showed up. My dad sent letters at first, but they stopped after a year. I was alone. And that was okay. I had always been alone, in a way. I used the time in there to study. I finished high school in there. I started reading a lot. Philosophy books, psychology, anything that would help me understand what had happened. I talked to other inmates, heard similar stories. Boys who did terrible things for terrible reasons. Some regretted it. Others, like me, didn't. There was a guy there, Marcus, who had killed his stepdad who beat his mom. We understood each other. We spent hours talking about guilt, justice, whether there's forgiveness for things like this. Do you think we're monsters? He asked me once. I think we did monstrous things, but for human reasons. Does that make us better or worse? I don't know. I think it just makes us complicated. I got out 8 months ago. I went straight to live alone in a small apartment I rented with money my grandma left me in her inheritance. She died while I was locked up. I couldn't go to the funeral. My life now is quiet. I work at a supermarket. I do my hours. I go home. I don't have friends, don't have family. Just me and my thoughts. I try not to think too much about what I did, but when I do, I don't feel regret. I feel acceptance. I did what I thought had to be done. I paid the price and now I try to live with it. Sometimes I see news of similar cases, teenagers who kill abusers. Part of me hopes they won't be convicted. Part of me knows they will be. Because the law doesn't understand. The law wasn't there. The law didn't see what I saw. The law only sees black and white, crime and punishment. But life is gray, full of impossible decisions and choices that destroy you either way. I chose to save my sister. And if that makes me a monster, so be it, because I'd rather be a monster who protected someone I love than a coward who stood by watching her be destroyed. I don't know if you understand. I don't know if anyone can truly understand without being in my place, but I hope at least now you know it wasn't simply violence for violence's sake. It was desperation. It was rage. It was love too, love for my sister. And if you made it this far, if you heard my complete story, I need to ask you something. Like this video, subscribe to Traumatic Accounts, turn on the notification bell and tell me what time it is right now where you are, because I need to know there's someone on the other side who listened, who understood, who didn't judge me before knowing everything. I'm not asking you to agree with me or to say I did the right thing. I'm just asking you to understand that sometimes life puts you in situations where all the choices are bad and you have to choose the least bad. I chose, I paid, and I'll continue paying for the rest of my life. Even being free, because the worst prison isn't the one with bars, it's the one in your own head. And that one I'll never get out of, but at least my sister is alive, is trying, is breathing, and that to me was worth everything.